After completing the first two phases of the writing process, pre-writing and writing, as discussed in Unit 2, you have a first draft. However, revision of that first draft will most likely be needed. Revision is the act of changing a text to make updates or modifications that can improve it. It involves a focus on the big issues. During this stage, we want students to focus on developing the writing. Teachers can help students to focus on paragraph writing ideas such as organization and structure, clarity and coherence, supporting details, flow of information, and conclusion. It can be very difficult to figure out how to improve your own work, so it can be very helpful for students to share their work with a partner or group that provides positive, constructive feedback on what areas need work and specific guidance on how to improve those areas. You can have students share their work with their peers or with you, but either way, it is very important that you create an environment in your classroom where students feel safe to share their work. It is very easy for teachers to write on a student's paper and make corrections all over the paper, but we have to be careful about doing that. DePuma and Maslikoff note that when a teacher writes all over a student's paper, it doesn't necessarily help the student to become a better writer. It often only helps the student to write what the teacher wants. Many authors have discussed the importance of collaboration in writing, including peer collaboration, to develop writing. When peers support peers in improving the writing, it doesn't only lead to supportive relationships within the classroom, it can lead to improved writing. Peer revision is an important strategy for building community in the writing classroom, and it is an important technique for supporting students' writing development. According to Thompson, writing, which is commonly thought of as an individual activity, was enhanced through collaboration and sharing. Similarly, Sue notes that during the peer review process, students can work with complement partners or partners whose strengths and areas of needs are the opposite of their own, think aloud, verbalizing their thought process so that other students can follow along and provide suggestions, share drafts of the writing to get help from other students as they work to improve the writing, suggest revisions and resources that other students may not be familiar with, peer edit each other's papers, or evaluate each other's drafts to help each other find areas and ways in which to improve their writing. One activity that you could try with your students is on peer editing and feedback for paragraph writing. You should have out the paragraph that you wrote in Unit 2, as well as the paragraph writing self-evaluation checklist. Now, take some time to use the 2-page self-evaluation checklist to evaluate your writing. What needs to be changed? I will pause for a minute to give you the chance to review your work. In addition to having students evaluate their own writing, you might want students to partner up and evaluate each other's writing. In the supplemental handouts at the end of this unit, you will find a checklist that your students can use to do this. The teacher's role in the revising process is critical. Sue also notes what teachers can do during the peer review process. They can circulate around the room to assess how students are doing, purposefully put students in groups with like needs or different needs by calling partners together, participate in discussions to push students in their thinking to help them move outside the box, Participate in discussions to model how feedback should be given. Supplement or modify partner feedback so that students receive the feedback that they need, or recommend resources to students beyond what is being used in the classroom. Now let's go one step further. When you evaluated the paragraph that you wrote in Unit 2, you were working with writing that you completed quickly and may not have invested in too much. When working with your students' writing, even with a first draft, you have to be aware that students have often put a lot of time and effort into what they give you. For that reason, after sharing and revising, students are ready for the post-writing phase. In this phase, students polish their work. Post-writing is the process of examining and changing a written document that has already been revised for larger structural changes. The focus in post-writing is on the smaller issues of the text, such as those at the sentence level. The supports that teachers provide to students are very critical in this process, especially for ESL students who can easily focus too much on grammar. The post-writing and editing phase is a good time to focus on grammar, but the question is, what should be the nature of the focus on grammar? There's quite a lot of literature on what teachers need to do to help students address grammar without turning the whole writing process into an activity where grammar is the only focus. To help you reflect on everything you've learned about the writing process, take a minute to do a quick write. In case you are unfamiliar with quick writes, the Teaching Excellence in Adult Literacy, or TEAL project, which is the writing project sponsored by the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, recommends using quick writes as a non-threatening, informal, quick motivational way to get your students to practice writing and provide them with an opportunity for reflection and elaboration. Simply put, when you do a quick write, you ask students to respond to a question or prompt that you give them. You stress to them that you want them to write down whatever comes to mind, with no concern for grammar, spelling, or organization. Please take a few minutes to practice doing this now. Reflect on what you have learned about the writing process. What has struck you as the most meaningful or biggest aha? What are you most excited to take back to use with your students?